Welcome to the Booktrovert Babes podcast, where two friends decided to bring our dramatic conversations about books here for your entertainment. I'm Rubix, mom of 5 and a baby reader just entering my book era.
And I'm Taylor, mom of 2 and a well-seasoned book era veteran.
Today, our episode is mostly going to be Taylor defending the art of annotating.
Yes, because I do annotate quite a bit, and it makes Rubik's skin crawl and itch and burn because you hate it.
I know, and I think I figured out that it's because when I was younger, my mom was very like, you don't write in your books, like keep your books clean, pristine kind of vibe. Like, treat your books carefully. And that just went into like, for some reason, I related that to annotating. Like, even though I know annotating has a purpose,
yes,
I still have a really hard time doing it
I know.
because I'm marking in my book and it's no longer like new, you know?
Yeah.
So, Taylor.
Yes, hi.
What got you started annotating?
So I started annotating in school, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but your girls, their school encourages annotating in books.
Oh, yeah. They literally get graded by their annotations in the margins of their books.
Okay, that's what I thought. So my school, probably not to the degree the girls' school is, because I know theirs is probably a little more heavy on it. But I also went to public high school, so all of ours were also like English classes where you need to annotate, you need to show what you're annotating, especially depending on the book, because obviously some books we were doing like Shakespeare and stuff, so it was like annotate sections and then tell me what he said in our way to better understand it, because obviously his was very poetic. So it started in school, and then it just kind of went from there. I really like annotating. It's changed obviously since I was in high school, because obviously in high school you're annotating education wise. But I just like, I think it's almost similar to what you do. Like, you love quotes, so you write them down. For me, I don't write anything down. Like, I do have reading journals now, so maybe the annotating will go away a little more now that I have a reading journal. But I do like quotes. I just like highlighting them or underlining them, or now I have like the tab system where I get like the cutesy tabs off of Amazon and then I do that. I don't know. There's something where, like, when I'm reading it and I'm having reactions to it, like when I'd reread, because I am a rereader, I like looking back at like old Taylor or the first time Taylor read this and seeing what she had to think or say about stuff. So it just kind of hooked and stayed, and I really enjoy it. But yeah, it definitely, school started it. It's school's fault.
Okay. So, does how you annotate change or how much you annotate change based on if you're reading a paperback or a Kindle, or does it change?
Yeah, with hardcovers, I don't annotate at all, because I've said on like past like I don't love a hardcover. I am a paperback girly. Hardcovers are truly like my special editions. I'm not touching those. Those are like beautiful as is, and I don't typically read those ones. Those are really just, those are my true shelf trophies. So
those are the
hardcovers,
ones that are like new.
yeah, those are in pristine condition. They're not touched. There's not a pencil mark anywhere near those. You will not find them. Paperbacks, a little bit less now that I have a Kindle. If you look at my like ones that I've had in my collection longer, then yes, if you go through it, you'll probably find pencil, underline, highlight, pen markings in the margins. So those ones I just went to town on. Now I have the tabbing system, which I get very into. So I bought like 180 pack of tabs forever ago that have like every single color. There's like 18 different purples and like 18 different reds, like all out. And I will grab the tabs that color-wise
Are you talking like the little Post-it note?
Yeah, the itty bitty post
ones. Okay.
like just the little line ones.
Okay.
And I will grab like 6 to 8 tabs, but the colors coordinate with the cover, like the colors on the cover of the book. So like
no, they don't.
Yeah, they do. So Daydream by Hannah Grace, the Henry and Hallie book that I loved last year that you read in January. That one I grabbed purples and soft blues because on the cover it's purple, she's wearing purples, the background has blue. So I match it to that. And then I have one tab color and that's like a soft pink color. And then I have an organization system of like, these colors are for this. So if I look for those color tabs, then I know those all coordinate with a Hallie quote or a Henry quote. And then there's other tabs that are like, this is a funny moment, this is a cute moment, this is like a standout moment. And then the pink ones were smut moments, because just in case I want to go back to go through those again.
You
So I
marked the
do,
smut?
of course I did. Because especially for that one, because it's a slow burn, it doesn't happen till much later. And for that setup, I would say the smut was more plot based rather than just being like smut. Like, if anything, I really wouldn't call that smut. It's really just like the romance scenes between the two of them, because they're more plot driven with a little bit of, some smuttiness to it, because Hannah Grace is perfect. But yeah, I have a color system with my tabs per the book. And sometimes what I'll do is, because I mainly read on my Kindle, it's very rare that I paperback now. If I highlight something in my Kindle, then I'll go into my paperback and then I'll just tab it from whatever I highlighted in my Kindle, but not all the time, because I think
That was my next
now,
question. Like, what do you do when it's your Kindle? Do you still highlight or do you make notes?
yes and no. So I think I go highlight happy in Kindle, because as I've gotten older, I don't pen or pencil mark my books anymore. I just do the tabs. But on Kindle, there's no limit. I can highlight everything I want to. So what's nice in the feature on Kindle is you can highlight something and then you can leave a note if you want, or you can just highlight. So I do that a lot. A lot of it's you can share on Goodreads and make it like a shareable so other people can see what you commented about the highlight. I don't. Probably 99% of my highlights I keep private on my Goodreads, because it's like they're my highlights. Sometimes I'll let some go out to be funny. Like, I did one for Credence, because I was like, if this wasn't a smut book, I would assume it's a horror book, because like the sentence was so like, it was basically, we're so far up the mountain that if I were to scream, no one would hear me. So I highlighted it and then I made it shareable, because I wanted everyone to see the sentence and then be like, if I didn't know that this was like taboo smut, horror. That is a horror line.
That's like stereotypical horror movie line.
Yeah, no, if you were to scream, no one can hear you. What the fuck was that doing in that book? So I had to share that one.
No one will hear you scream.
Yes, that book, I could do a whole episode on why I hate that book. But when I highlight things on Kindle, sometimes I will go to my physical copy and then I'll tab it, especially if it's like a standout thing, or if the quote really means something to me, or if it was like a really deep quote that I was like, wow, that's a powerful statement. Then yes, I'll go into my paperback and tab it. But the nice thing with Kindle and highlighting stuff is, like, especially with Goodreads, even though I don't love Jeff Bezos because I'm kind of mad at him all the time, but it is nice that it just stores all of my highlights for me and I can pull them on like to a PDF setup. So I would say I highlight more with the Kindle, but not necessarily all of it gets transferred to a paperback.
So how did the system like develop? Like how you're with all the tabs and highlights and everything, how did this develop?
So, like I said, like school is where it started. And then like there was kind of certain things of like you highlight and paint. I'll just use Romeo and Juliet because that's a book I remember having to tab and annotate when I was in school. So like you had to pick a color for Juliet, you had to pick a color for Romeo, and then you had to pick a color for foreshadowing, and then you had to pick a color. It was all highlighting and stuff. So it started with that of like the color coordinated annotation. And then it just kind of went into, I took a pause with it for a little bit because obviously I had like a little bit of a slump where I was super into fantasy and then I slumped out and then I got back into romance in my earlier 20s. So there was a little bit of a pause. I wasn't highlighting anymore and then I was just doing pen markings. But then I was like, this isn't as pretty or as like colorful. And just underlining stuff was fine, but I wanted it to be pretty, okay? Especially like if I'm especially because I'm the person who's like, don't crack spines, don't dog ear books. If I'm going to be doing something to a book, it needs to be pretty. So,
That's fair.
yeah. So then I moved on to the tabbing system, but I was kind of new into it, and tabbing is like the big thing with annotation right now. So I actually went on like YouTube and TikTok and Instagram Reels just to see how like other people were doing it. Some people it's like an art form. Like they really like they have a key what they do. Like I like what some of them do. I won't do it. I just think I know in my head what it is. They'll take all their tabs, put them on the first page or like whatever page has like room. They write on the tab what that tab stands for, and then that way like the key essentially is at the front of the book.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, that's so organized. I'm not that organized. Like in my head, I know what I'm
Hold on.
tabbing,
How are you not that organized, but you have specific colors and
but I don't
tabs
make
for
a
everything
key.
anyway?
I don't know. I don't have a key. I just in my head I know what they are. Or I'll just look at a couple and be like, "Oh, okay, that's why it's this
So
color." If
you
I like
have a
forget,
key, you just don't make
I don't
one
make
in
a
the book
key.
because it's in
Yeah.
your head.
Yeah.
But you do have a key.
In my head, just not in my book, the way like some people do.
Okay.
Listen, in my head, I'm not as
I feel like it's the
organized.
same.
I mean,
I feel
in
like it's
theory.
the same level.
In I mean, in theory. But I don't make the key, so I'm not that extent of crazy. So,
Do you have
I
a color for denial?
no, because there's no such thing as denial. So,
Okay.
but I it changes book to book. It depends on what I'm reading too. So, I have some books where like my romances really are mostly being highlighted so that I can do the cutesy quotes, the cutesy moments, anything that makes me go, "Oh," or do the like the little foot kick thingy. You're like, "Oh, this is so cute. I got to kick my feet. It's so cute." So those things I like to highlight. And then I do have where like if I'm reading something and the thing that I read really relates to me or it hits me deep or I'm like this is a moment that really stands out because personally I attach to it, then those ones typically are especially what I'll transfer from Kindle to paperback. Because for me, that's mostly what I highlight. The one thing is like with Kindle, I don't know if you've ever noticed it, but sometimes when you're reading, you'll see things that are underlined and it's like 3,000 users have underlined or highlighted this passage. So then when you're reading, you can see what the more popular highlighted sentences are, which sometimes I feel like are influenced. Like I feel like people see the underline like, "Oh, 3,000 other people underline this. I'm going to underline it too." Because sometimes I see them and I'm like, "Why? Why is this highlighted?" It does what? So that's always entertaining to
It's
see in
almost
the
like
Kindle.
FOMO. Like I have
Yeah,
to highlight this too.
this is peer pressure in a Kindle book. But yeah, I don't necessarily always highlight those. Sometimes I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's deep. I'm gonna highlight that too." Especially in Song of Achilles, there was a ton, and I was like, "Nope, I get it. This whole book should be highlighted truly." But like, I get the highlights, so I did also highlight a lot, if not all of them, to be honest. But the like the deep, deep ones get highlighted. I don't highlight as much now unless I'm just in like a silly, goofy mood. Like I feel like in Daydream, I went ham on my highlighting and tabbing because that book was just so cute and I related to it so much. But I probably now only average like 5 to 10 highlights a book. I've definitely calmed down on the highlighting, but I will say in fantasy books, maybe because I'm only just getting back into them, I actually don't tab or highlight a lot, mainly because, like, they're fantasy, so there's not gonna be a ton of, like, relatable sentences in theory, mainly for
I mean,
those.
unless you've ridden dragons lately.
If only, man. I wanna write a dragon. But in fantasy, the main thing that I'll highlight sometime like, in the Empyrean series, I really enjoy highlighting Riddick's one-liners, and he's a green tab, just so you're aware.
Oh, that's so fair.
I could just anything with Riddick, I could just highlight his dialogue and be happy.
I feel like even if I am not annotating the book, I would still highlight everything that came out of Riddick's mouth.
It just because like I said, in Goodreads, if you annotate on a Kindle, it gets put into like a save thing and you can look at all your highlights and notes in one little page. Imagine Onyx Storm, because I had to paperback that or hardcover, so I didn't read it on Kindle because it wasn't available. But imagine having a cute little folder and it's just all your highlights, and all of your highlights are Riddick talking. How fun would that be?
It's
Like,
almost
if
like
I'm in a bad
reading
mood,
Riddick's
open that.
POV of the whole thing.
Yeah. But, like, if I'm ever in a bad mood, that would be such a great page to open up. Just read anything Riddick says. Immediately, I am cured. Depressed? Read what Riddick is saying. Cured. That's why it's fun. Because, like in Her Soul for Revenge, which is the first book in the Souls trilogy, I don't have a ton of highlights in that one, and you know how much I love the Souls trilogy. There's one section where I have a tab at the start of a scene that I just really, really loved. Because every once in a while, because again, I do love a reread, but sometimes like I just want to relive a moment. So I like going to the certain tabs because I mainly do it for fantasy and dark romance. Is I'll tabs like scenes or sections that like they live rent free in my head. So I just go to the tab and then I can read like a chapter or two, relive the moment that I want to relive, and then I'm happy. So like romance, I tab for quotes and things, and fantasy and dark romance, I probably would say I tab for scenes because I know I'm going to want to reread that like specific scene.
That's fair. So you said you kind of paused. So you said you kind of paused annotating for a while.
Yes. So I got bored with it, essentially. Like I had been doing it for so long. I did it in school. And then I think honestly, it started when I went into college and there's just so much homework and highlighting and doing a lot of annotating with that it started becoming more like this thing I had to do for school and it became less fun to do in my books. So I honestly was just over it and I got bored. But I did stop annotating again a little bit of last year, honestly. And I will say Daydream is probably the book that brought me back into annotating. Like I have a whole drawer that's where all my tabs go and stuff that wasn't touched for so long that I actually took all of the tabs out of that drawer. I was like, I'm wasting space. I'm not even using these tabs. I took all them out of that drawer. There's stuff now in that drawer, and my tabs are actually, they're all behind that row. Like if I take the Boys of Toman series and I take them all out, behind it is all of my tabs, which I have like fixed a little bit because now I just move the horizontal, the indie editions, and that's how I grab them out now. Because I was like, I'm wasting space in my drawers. There's no reason that these are here. I'll just hide them behind my books in my bookshelf, which those aren't the only things that are hiding behind my books. There's clearly nothing behind the row right behind my head because of they're all facing out because they're special editions. But I for sure have things that are hiding behind books on my bookshelf, and my tabs are one of them. So yeah, I just paused because I was getting bored with it. And then it's like, you know how like people go on a diet? Not me, couldn't be me. I love food, not happening. And you're from Texas, so I highly doubt you diet who? You guys have delicious food down there. So I think when people go on diets, right? And then there's like that big fad of like a cheat day, but then people do their cheat days and they go flying off the bandwagon and then they're just like, diet who? So I feel like that's the best way to compare like annotating. Like you do it, and then you read a couple books where you're like, yeah, I didn't feel like annotating, and then you just never do it again. Or for us, because we're Sims players, we play Sims daily for hours, and then you don't touch the game again for 2 to 3 months.
Yeah, you just get burned out in the
Yeah,
moment.
and I think that's kind of what happened. Is it stopped like I think I got so into annotating and making it like an art form and like having it really organized that it stopped being fun and almost became like my weird homework assignment within my hobby. And it like I read a lot. I read a lot of books.
See, that's what I was thinking is how does it not feel like homework at that point? Like
That's why I had to like
if
take a
you have
step
a whole
back.
key in your head where like
Yeah.
all these different colors are different things and like how does it not feel like homework?
So that's why I think I essentially, what's funny is I have a book that I know is specifically the book where I got burnt out on doing it because I stopped tabbing halfway through. So it's like tab, 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 nothing for the next 150 pages. It's like 0 tabs because it was like every time something was happening, I'd have to pause and then get the tab for it and then like highlight because I had that like, I like had it down to a science because I think I got overly influenced by TikTok where, I don't know if you've seen them on like Instagram reels. I can just think of the people I know who have done it on like TikToks. But like when they turn their book and the entire book it has like 100 of those little tabbies sticking out. I was like, I want a book that looks like that. So then I started really getting into it, but then I started hyper fixating on that of like getting the books to look overly tabbed.
Oh no.
But then it was like, you know how I read. I'm a fast reader. And then it felt like it was a roadblock. And then I just got mad at it. So I was like, I need to step back because now I'm getting angry at my hobby because it's feeling like a homework assignment. And I want to say that was I think my worst reading month last year was March or April of last year because I only read like 6 or 7 books because I was getting so angry. But if you look at January, February, March of last year, I only averaged like 8 to 10 books in those like couple of months. And you know how I read. So
Yeah.
it was slowing me down and I was getting angry at it. Now I primarily do audiobooks and Kindle now. So it's more of like read my Kindle, highlight stuff on my Kindle. Then when I have the free time or while I'm audiobooking something, pulling up my phone, seeing what pages my highlights are, and then going and just like tabbing after. Like I'm on to a new book. Now I'm just tabbing for the after fact. I essentially had to quit and then reevaluate my hyperfixation to then fall back in love with it because it was I was going too far. I jumped off the cliff. I didn't fall off, I jumped off the cliff with annotating. So I had to just rewind it back a little bit. And now I'm back to enjoying it because I just do it for myself of like,
Yeah.
because I don't need the book that has 100 tabs in it because while I think, yeah, that looks fun, it's not. And some of the books that I did like almost get to doing stuff like that where it's a lot of tabs, like they're really chunky and I have them like squished between other books because they got fat from all the tabs. It was an eye-opening experience. So it's like I quit in college because it wasn't fun because I had to do it for college assignments. And then I quit a little bit last year because I went too far. But it's back to fun. So I'm having fun again with it now.
Okay, so what is your most heavily annotated book? Like, which one has the most annotations out of
To
all of the
kill
books that you've annotated?
To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee.
Oh,
I have I have 6 copies of that book. One is my edition I had in high school. One is the first ever edition, the like hardback I have that's like falling to pieces because it's 80 years old at this point. And then every time it got like a new cover, I just kept I at one so in my senior year and then like first year freshman in college, I worked at a bookstore. So every single time a new edition of that book came in, I bought it. And I had a point where I was kind of like Mel, where she rereads Perks every year. I was reading that book like 2 or 3 times a year because it was just like a comfort read. I loved that book. I, in college, wrote a paper on that book. I had read, there was a biography about Harper Lee. If I had a daughter, I was going to name her Harper. Like, I was so in love with that book. So I have one copy that I went in, and it's like, I don't have it with me. It's actually inside of a container in storage because it's also old and it's like falling apart, but it's not the copy I had in high school. It's the first copy I bought after that because the copy from high school is like from school and I actually never gave my book back. I kept it because there were annotations in the copy from high school from like other people who had read the book obviously, and I just never gave the book back. The copy I
like
bought
from the
myself
library?
after. No, 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 no. So our school, I went to a semi-public, semi-private high school, and they had bought all the editions for everyone to like fill out like as a journal, and you were supposed to hand it in at the end of the year, get a grading on it, and then like it was supposed to be used for future classes to like go through those. I never gave mine back. I gave it back as a
Ooh.
grade. I knew the teacher. Like I babysat this teacher's kids. Like I was like besties with it. Like I went to this woman's house, babysat her kids, like had dinner. This teacher and I were besties. We're friends on Facebook still to this day. She knows that I stole the book back after she graded mine because I wanted it.
Somebody come get her.
Somebody come get her. She's a book thief.
Somebody come get her.
But see, I feel like I didn't fully steal that book because she knew I did it. Because as you, I think I've told you, my graduating class was
Aiding and
900
abetting.
plus kids. There were like over 900 kids in my graduating class. So it would have taken me a hot minute to find my exact book. So she kind of, yeah, she definitely aided me into finding mine and I took it and ran. So that one and then the book after I bought for like my own, I really went in. Like, I don't think there's a page in that book that has a margin where my pen marking isn't in it. Things are underlined, things are highlighted. Like, I went that whole book, I think every single page, there's something. And I have that and then my high school edition are like together in like a lockbox. Not a lockbox, like a safety thing, but like in a box.
I was going
Like
to
a
say,
keepsake box.
dang.
Yeah. No one touch this. In a like a keepsake box to like keep them because they're both falling apart from their spines.
Yeah.
Listen, that was high school Taylor. We're not going to judge her. But I had to like really for a grade, I had to with the first one. But then the high school one has like high school appropriate comments. And then the my copied has less high school appropriate comments because the book deals with racism. So like there were things that I wrote in my copy that were like, fuck this guy, fuck this family. So that copy and that one are in a keepsake box. But basically between the two of them, there's every single page is annotated in some way, shape, or form.
Okay, so what's your longest single annotation?
So there's an entire page. I said this in our wraps. There's an entire page in Song of Achilles that is highlighted. And it's you've read that book now. So, and I think I kind of
I
told
get
you
it.
it's
I get
when
it.
they're talking as teens and he says, "Do you want to know a secret?" Or no, no, no. Hold on. It goes into that. He says, "Are there any happy heroes?" And Patroclus is like, "No, they've all gone insane," and then lists like which ones and why they got insane. And Achilles says, "Do you want to know a secret? I'll be the first one who is because I have you." That whole like page and a half I have highlighted because I was like, the foreshadow. But also, I
No
loved
kidding.
it.
Do you
Honestly, I
also
could highlight
have
that whole
something
book.
written with it? Like, what's your
Yeah.
longest like written annotation?
So I know I'm debating between two. I'd have to like, without like looking at them and like counting word for word my notes on them, it would either be from Saving Six or If Only I Had Told Her. So, for different reasons. For Saving Six, there was a lot of Aoife things that I highlighted for very personal reasons that I related to Aoife on because of her relationship with Joey. And I remember there's a section that I highlighted, and then I just like, I was in my feels clearly when I was reading that book, as you know. Um, and there's a paragraph that I wrote of like just why I related to Aoife and why I was like, girl, I get it. I'm so sorry. I get you. But like, I love Joey. But also, like, Joey was toxic at one point and dangerous to be around. So there's that. If Only I Had Told Her is the one I told you is the sequel to If He Had Been With Me that was not a planned sequel, but the author felt like she still had more to say. There is 3 POVs in that book. The second POV was a surprise, and there were things happening to that POV that hurt way more than I anticipated the other two hurting. Like the other two I thought were the only two in that book. There were made sense why those ones were going to hurt, but there was something about that second POV, and Marley gets me because Marley was reading it with me, and they were like posting they have an Apple Watch, whatever like tracks your heart rate and stuff, and was sending it, and they were like, I think my Apple Watch thinks I'm having a heart attack because like of how high the heart rate was going. And I just left like a note to myself of like, maybe we're never going to reread this book because I haven't been in this much pain in so long. How dare? Yeah.
That's almost comical. Like that would be funny to put in annotations, like your heart rate during certain scenes.
Oh my God, that would I should get that like a heart rate monitor and just be like,
Yeah,
okay, during this scene, I was crying so hard that my heart rate hit. Blah, blah, blah.
right? Or like during a
Imagine.
battle scene, like when you're like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god,
Oh,
what's going to happen?" Like writing down your heart rate. That would be so funny.
what was the one? I was just reading one that I was like, I have to finish this because it's making me anxious. In Demon Tide. Oh my God. I was like, which one was right? But it was like the second to last one. And even though I was mad at it, that very ending couple of chapters, my heart rate, I can't even imagine what it was because my anxiety was through the roof. And I was like reading it, getting mad, getting anxious, texting you. I highlighted a couple of things from that entire ending too, because I was like, too much is happening. I guarantee you, if I look up my Goodreads for Demon Tide, I highlighted something and you know what it is at the end area and wrote, I knew it. Fuck you, Rubix. I should make that public, actually. No, I can't because it's a spoiler. But I know for a fact I highlighted something in Demon Tide, wrote, I knew it. Fuck you, Rubix. And you know exactly what it is.
I
But I can't
do.
make it
I do.
public because it would be that's the other thing with like some highlights
Spoilers,
on
yeah.
Kindle, they're spoilers, and I can't make that public. That's not nice,
Yeah,
but you know what it is.
I know what it is. So going back to like private or personal, are do your annotations ever like end up kind of like a journal?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
So one that I annotated the crap out of. No one come for me in the comments. No one message me on Instagram. No judgment. This is a judgment free zone.
We listen and we don't judge. Go.
So, Colleen Hoover wrote this book. We're not going to talk about the movie drama. T. It Ends With Us is a book about domestic violence in a
Mhm.
relationship and not leaving the first time. Hashtag relatable. So, that one, I have a ton of annotations too. Honestly, I would probably put that in the top 5 books I've annotated. However, it is something that you and I talk about with our pasts freely because we are very close. We're best friends. We can relate to that with each other. A few other friends of ours, like I have people that I talk to about certain things. That book felt like an I'm sorry, love you letter to me. It was so personal. I sobbed almost that entire book. Kaylee actually was the one who wrecked it to me because one time I was just like ranting about something to her and she's like, I think you need to read this book. I was like, but it's Coho. I don't want to read Coho. Don't do that to me. And she's like, just do it. And I did.
Ho
And
ho.
that's what she's called. Instead of calling Hoover, they call her Coho on like
Oh
all
my
the
goodness.
socials. But it was so personal. And all of my highlights, I didn't say a single thing about the book. I would highlight and then write why I related to what was being said, or I highlighted and wrote why I related to it in general. That one is one I will never make public because it's not like highlight, oh, I'm so sorry, Lily Bloom, or highlight, oh, relate. Like it is highlight and then something extremely personal. So that's one that'll never go public. That was a love letter to myself.
That's actually really amazing.
I think you would enjoy that book for
That's
the same
kind of
reason I
like,
did.
so I don't annotate, so I have trouble relating.
Uh-huh.
However, when hearing you talk about it, House of Leaves, it's
Yep.
it's technically got two narrators, right? Because you have
Yes, I remember you saying that.
it has the foundation story of the family that moved into this house that is bigger on the inside, and there are anomalies and things like that. But then the guy that found all of these papers, Johnny, he's the one that's turning it, like trying to finish Zampano, the original
Yeah.
writer, like he's trying to finish his manuscript.
Mm-hmm.
And so the book has like three layers. Like it has Zampano's writing, that it has Johnny's, basically his annotations, which
Mm-hmm.
sometimes a single annotation of his will go on for pages. And it's basically a journal or about something in his life. Like it's like his story. And
Mm-hmm.
then you also have like the editor's footnotes where it's like, go to exhibit B to like see the pictures or whatever that they're talking about.
Yeah.
But like Johnny's annotations very much start as like, that's weird kind of little snippets to
Mm-hmm.
like full blown like 5 pages. I think one of them goes 5 pages long. Just, and it's a footnote, like it's numbered and everything, but it's like a story about like a whole week that went by. So that kind of reminds me of that. Like it very much turned into like a journal, and it's like two books in one. You have Zampano's writing about the family, the
Yeah.
Davidsons, and then you also have Johnny's story, but it looks like it's in footnotes.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of imagine that book being like that for you.
Oh yeah. If
That's
you
kind of
saw
cool.
my annotations for It Ends With Us, it could be a novella. If you pulled every single thing that I wrote in response to stuff happening in it, it could probably be a novella. My own little personal novella. That was a good book to annotate. Because I think that's the
Yeah.
thing is when you read a book that feels really personal or feels like it was written for you, annotating is really easy in that scenario. Because I don't necessarily annotate every
Yeah.
single book I read.
Did you annotate A Thousand Boy Kisses or A Thousand Broken Pieces at all?
Uh-huh. Oh
How did
yeah.
those go? How was that?
So painful.
Are you okay?
No, of course I'm not okay. Actually, A Thousand Broken Pieces, for all the things in that, is what If He Had Been With Me is basically about. And that second POV I was saying is essentially if you were to take either one of the main characters in A Thousand Broken Pieces and give them like a POV within what happened in the first book. And that's why that
Yeah.
second one is so hard.
I feel like if there were any book that I could annotate that would come off like House of Leaves, where it's basically a journal in the footnotes, I think it would be A Thousand Broken Pieces
I told you that one was a
for
big that
sure.
it there's just so it's like it's essentially the same reason why I said that If He Had Been With Me is like hashtag relatable. Whew, Thousand Broken Pieces. Whew.
So, how many annotations do you have for those two books, The Thousand Boy Kisses and Thousand Broken Pieces?
So A Thousand Boy Kisses I have 18 and then A Thousand Broken Pieces I have 13. Honestly, I could have done more for A Thousand Broken Pieces. But I was busy crying and just wanted to get through the book because I was like the whole time. So
Fair.
I think at one point I was like, I don't want to annotate. I just want to finish this book. But yeah, so I have 18 for the first and 13 for the second one. And honestly, I could have highlighted more, but both of those books destroyed me. So a couple less. But also with those books, like when I annotate like romance, I typically am highlighting cutesy things that are happening. And there's not as many cutesy things happening in those books. There's some, but for the most part, I'm just getting punched in the heartstrings. So
Are your annotations always like really personal? Like, and how you're relating? Or do you have a lot, like, which one do you have more of, where they're like really personal and private? Or like, I I don't annotate, remember, but my
mhm.
children do. In one of my daughter's books, I think she wanted me to read something, and I saw her annotation on the next page for something else, and it was just dot 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 bruh W2F. Like
That's so their
dot
generation.
dot dot bruh
Bruh.
WTF. And it made me laugh because that's not like something I would anticipate somebody annotating in a book. Like, are your annotations always very personal and like thought provoking kind of things, or do you just like like you're texting us commenting
I'm
on the
gonna
book?
be so honest. It's like a 60-40. 60% of the time it's personal, 40% of the time I'm trolling the book. I read King of Greed, I'll use as an example. There's a chapter that's one word, and it's just the word fuck. I highlighted it and I wrote, yeah, you are. Like, I sometimes get very sassy, snarky, me, in some of my annotations, but
Shocked.
only like 40% of the time. So I would say 60% of the time it is highlighted, personal, I love it, something sweet. 40% of the time I'm highlighting and I'm snarking back, or I'm like, ooh, girl, or like just something within that like range. But I would say more of the time it is the cutesy and personal,
Yeah.
but I am me. So of
Right.
course there's a couple in there where I'm like, LOL, what the fuck? Honestly, any
Do
highlight from
you write
Cadence,
LOL?
I've 100% written LOL.
I love that.
I'm a millennial. Of course I've written LOL. I've written LMAO, LMFAO. Like, I for sure have left notes that are literally just LOL. I had one where it was just in the Kindle and it was the middle finger emoji. Like, I sometimes I'm in a silly, goofy mood.
Have you ever picked up a book to read, like an actual, probably physical book, that had somebody else's annotations in it that you enjoyed like reading those?
Um, so not necessarily like another person. I do have special edition books that are actually annotated by the author, if that counts.
Oh, that's actually really cool. Was it
Archer's
like,
Voice, I have a special edition. Mel has the same one. It is a special edition hardcover sprayed edges. There's one where the entire book is annotated by her.
what are her annotations like though? Are they like about her thoughts in writing those
So it's
moments, or
yeah,
are they like commentating on her own story?
there's a couple. So there's some where she wrote like for not spoilery, the almond joy bouquet. She had written that she fought to like keep that because her editor was like, this is too cheesy. Or there's moments where she says she describes Archer's house as like her family's vacation spot they had in Maine. Or this used to be this, or I had a hard time writing this, or someone's name was almost something else. Like just like little like in basically what came in and out of editing, where her thought process was, where her like when she's describing like Norm's diner, how like she was representing the diner that she used to go to. So just like yeah, basically where her head was at while she was writing it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, other than that, I really haven't read anyone else's annotations. It's mainly just authors, and that's the only one I can think of off the top of my head.
That's really cool though that she did that.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous special edition too.
You know what would be fun is if we found a book for our little group chat, our TBR Titties group,
Mhm.
and we took turns reading it and annotating it and then sent it to the next person so that like when we're done, we have a book with all of our annotations in it.
The
Like
Sisterhood
Sisterhood
of
of
the
the
Traveling
Traveling.
Book.
Yeah,
That would
exactly.
be so fun. We would just have to compel the other 3 to participate. I'll just threaten them. You do it or I block you. It works for
There you
Tish.
go.
Yeah, I'll do
I mean,
anything
I
when Tish
don't,
tells me she's gonna block me, so.
to be fair, Tish is considerably more scary than you are.
I know. So what I should do is I should get Mel and Tish on board. No, because then I would just need to tell Kaylee what to do and Kaylee will listen. Okay, so we really just need to work on Mel and Tish. We're gonna do it. We're gonna have this TBR Titties of the Traveling Book.
We just have to find a really good book.
And a standalone, and not dark romance.
And not
Fantasy or horror. We really just, that's going to be the hardest thing, is finding a standalone book in a genre where all 5 of us aren't going to freak out. We'll find it. We'll find a sweet spot.
Write ugly comments the whole time.
We could have fun with it, though. We could.
It would be so much fun.
Yeah.
Like responding to the last person's annotations.
That's what I'm
ours.
thinking. Is I'm like, I don't want to be the one who gets it first. Whoever has it first should be the one who also ends with it, so they can see what everyone did too. But
yes,
it would be hilarious, because I think that's what I would do, is I would just respond to someone else's annotations. Like, I would throw in my annotations, but I'm for sure responding to whoever was ahead of me.
That would
just
be
for the
so much fun.
Mostly
Maybe
because
we
I
can
know that
also get a special
it,
print with extra wide margins.
Right. Whoever would like send it to me, though, the best part would be is I could respond to what they said, but then I have to send it to someone new, so that person actually wouldn't even know what I said to them. It's a secret. You don't get to know
the next person would be like, haha, I know what she said.
Yeah. Be like, no, I'm not going to tell you.
Well, thanks for hanging out with us today. Hope you enjoyed the vibes. If you want to keep up to date with us, make sure you are following us on our Instagram.
And if you ever want to watch us argue about some books live, make sure you join us over on Twitch for the Booktrovert babes. We need help. We need chat to help us, because we fight a lot. But if you miss it, you can head over to YouTube. We do post them there as well.
Till next time, you are awesome. You are doing great.
We love you. Now stop stalling and go read that book.
Bye.
Bye.